What drives a man to brutally murder someone he once loved? Gregory Hunt had only been dating Karen Lane for a month before her life was violently taken from her. Have you ever wondered how justice catches up decades later? Or felt the weight of unanswered questions in your own community? Now, nearly 37 years after the horrific crime, Hunt faces execution, using a new, controversial method involving nitrogen gas. But his story doesn't end with the sentence. Appeals and debates over fairness continue to echo. What really happened that night? How did the legal battle unfold? And what does this execution mean for the future of justice? Stay tuned as we break it all down. Today, we're diving deep into a story that began back in 1988, a case of love turned deadly, decades of legal battles, and a controversial execution method. Stay tuned to get all the facts. The shock of such a crime reverberated through the community, raising difficult questions about trust, safety, and how well we truly know the people closest to us. How could a man she had only recently started seeing turn into the person capable of such brutality? Welcome to our channel. If you're passionate about insightful stories, real-world events, or just want to stay informed on the latest topics, you've come to the right place. We share deep dives, expert perspectives, and engaging content you won't want to miss. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support helps us bring you more of the content you love. Stay tuned, and thank you for being part of our community. Today, after years of legal battles and appeals, Gregory Hunt is scheduled to be executed on June 10, 2025, by a method that has stirred controversy: nitrogen hypoxia, a form of lethal gas. This upcoming execution brings fresh attention not only to the crime itself, but also to evolving debates around how justice is served. In 1988, the lives of Gregory Hunt and Karen Lane became tragically intertwined. Hunt was 28 years old, living in Cordova, Alabama, a town small enough that news of any serious crime sent ripples through the community. Karen Lane, aged 32, was navigating a difficult personal chapter, separated from her husband and in the midst of a divorce. She maintained two residences. One was an apartment she shared with her cousin in Cordova, while the other was her previous home. Though Hunt and Karen had only been dating for about a month, their relationship was far from simple. Witnesses describe a tension under the surface, fueled by jealousy, confusion, and hurt. Karen's estranged husband remained part of the picture, visiting occasionally to pick up their children. One such visit would ignite the chain of events leading to Karen's death. On that day, Gregory saw Karen's estranged husband at the apartment and their interaction. His reaction was one of visible anger, shouting, and confrontation. This wasn't a petty argument, but a dangerous escalation in an already volatile situation. The emotional landscape was complex. Karen was trying to rebuild her life amidst divorce and co-parenting, while Gregory's jealousy and insecurity grew. Their short relationship was filled with moments that foreshadowed tragedy, setting the stage for what would become one of Alabama's most harrowing murder cases. That same evening, tensions flared even higher. Karen's cousin left the apartment to visit her boyfriend, who was also a friend of Gregory Hunt. When Hunt showed up unannounced, he immediately demanded to know where Karen was. The cousin informed him Karen had gone to see her children, but Hunt was far from accepting that. He expressed a chilling resolve to end the situation, openly stating that he didn't mind if he went back to prison to do it. His anger had reached a dangerous boiling point. Later, Hunt was seen driving toward Karen's other apartment, where she wasn't home at the time. Soon after, neighbors witnessed the building engulfed in flames. Hunt later admitted to Karen's cousin that he had set the fire himself, an act of destruction meant to send a message. The threat escalated quickly. Hunt made a phone call to Tina's boyfriend, asking about Karen's whereabouts. When warned that the fire had drawn attention and that everyone suspected him, Hunt was undeterred, telling them to hurry. Witnesses later spotted him aggressively pursuing Karen in a van, but she managed to escape. Despite this, Hunt showed up later at the apartment she shared with her cousin in Cordova, a clear sign he was intent on confronting her directly. This night marked a terrifying turning point, from angry threats and property destruction to the deadly violence that followed just hours later. In the early morning hours, around 2 a.m., The terrifying climax of this tragic story unfolded. Karen Lane was alone at the Cordova apartment she shared with her cousin when Gregory Hunt forced his way inside. Witnesses would later describe a chilling scene. Hunt broke a window to gain entry, leaving a brutal mark on the quiet neighborhood. What happened next was horrific. The medical examiner's report painted a picture of savage violence. Karen sustained nearly 60 injuries across her body, with around 20 of those concentrated on her head alone. The assault was not only violent but deeply personal and disturbing. Evidence revealed that Hunt had sexually assaulted Karen using a broomstick, a detail that underscored the depth of his rage and cruelty. The assault wasn't a momentary loss of control. It was a prolonged and brutal attack that left Karen's life tragically extinguished. This was a crime fueled by jealousy, anger, and despair, emotions that had spiraled into a nightmare. Despite the horrifying nature of the crime, Hunt's actions in the immediate aftermath added another layer of shock. Instead of calling for help, he made a phone call to his friend, asking to speak with Tina, Karen's cousin. Hunt claimed he had arrived at the apartment to find Karen dead on the kitchen floor, a lie that would unravel quickly under investigation. He wanted to frame the estranged husband. Everybody knew he was the one who did it, because he has been on a rage the previous day. The crime scene bore silent witness to the brutality, while Hunt's attempts to deflect blame began a desperate flight that would only delay justice. Following the brutal attack, Gregory Hunt did not turn himself in or notify authorities. Instead, he attempted to cover his tracks by calling Tina's boyfriend, trying to shift suspicion away from himself and toward Karen's estranged husband. But his plan didn't hold. As investigators pieced together the evidence, it became clear Hunt was responsible. His attempts to manipulate the narrative only deepened his guilt in the eyes of law enforcement. Facing the inevitable, Hunt fled Alabama. He went on the run for about a month, traveling across state lines. His time as a fugitive ended in October 1988 when he was finally apprehended. During his time in custody, Hunt confessed to his cellmate. He admitted to heavy drinking and cocaine use on the day of the crime and said that he had snapped, believing Karen was unfaithful. This confession provided critical insight into his mindset and the tragic chain of events that led to the murder. The confession, combined with forensic evidence and witness statements, built a strong case that led to his conviction. But even after his arrest, Hunt's story was far from over. The legal battles, appeals, and questions of justice stretched on for decades. Gregory Hunt's trial began in 1990, marking a pivotal moment in this tragic case. The prosecution charged him with multiple counts of capital murder, including murder during robbery, sexual abuse, and burglary. The graphic and brutal nature of the crime deeply impacted the courtroom, with testimony detailing the extent of Karen Lane's injuries and the events leading up to her death. The jury deliberated and ultimately recommended a death sentence, voting 11-1 in favor of capital punishment. The trial judge accepted this recommendation and sentenced Hunt accordingly. The verdict was a significant moment of closure for many in the Cordova community, though the wheels of justice would continue to turn for decades. Following his conviction, Hunt launched a series of appeals challenging both the facts of the case and the legal procedures used against him. These appeals questioned the fairness of the trial, the admissibility of evidence, and various procedural issues. Hunt even attempted to represent himself in recent proceedings, arguing that while he did kill Karen, he did not sexually assault her. His goal was to reduce his conviction from capital murder to murder, which could have made him ineligible for the death penalty. Despite these efforts, the courts repeatedly upheld his conviction and sentence. His appeals were denied at multiple levels, including the Alabama Court of Criminal Appeals and federal courts. The legal battle surrounding Hunt's case highlights the complexities of the justice system, balancing procedural fairness with the demand for accountability. Gregory Hunt's upcoming execution is notable not only because of the crime, but also because of the method chosen: nitrogen hypoxia. Alabama is among the few states to adopt this execution method, which involves administering pure nitrogen gas to induce death by oxygen deprivation. Supporters argue that nitrogen hypoxia is a more humane alternative to traditional methods like lethal injection or the electric chair. They say it could cause less pain and suffering, making executions more humane. However, this method is controversial. Critics question whether it truly reduces suffering and raise ethical and legal concerns about its use. Since it's relatively new and untested in many states, some argue that using nitrogen hypoxia amounts to an experimental form of execution. Lawsuits and public debates continue as opponents push for transparency and accountability. Hunt's execution, scheduled for June 10, 2025, will be Alabama's fifth use of nitrogen gas for capital punishment. This has renewed the spotlight on the broader debate about the death penalty, the evolving standards of humane treatment, and how society should balance justice with compassion. Gregory Hunt's scheduled execution has stirred strong reactions across Alabama and beyond. For some, this is the long-awaited moment of justice for Karen Lane, a brutal crime that shattered a family and a community nearly 4 decades ago. For others, the case raises difficult questions about the death penalty itself, the fairness of the justice system, and the ethics of using a new, controversial execution method like nitrogen hypoxia. Advocacy groups have called for clemency and urged the state to reconsider the use of nitrogen gas, pointing to concerns about its safety and legality. They argue that decades of appeals and legal battles show how complex and imperfect capital punishment cases can be. Meanwhile, many victims' families and supporters of law enforcement see this as a necessary step to ensure accountability and closure. This case shines a harsh light on the devastating consequences of domestic violence and jealousy spiraling out of control. It reminds us that behind every headline is a human story of lives lost, families broken, and communities forever changed. As the execution date approaches, the nation watches not only a man's final chapter, but also the broader conversation about justice, punishment, and humanity. What happens next will echo far beyond the walls of Holman Correctional Facility. If this story has made you think, or if you have your own perspective on these difficult issues, please take a moment to comment below. Share your thoughts and let's discuss how we can seek justice while respecting human dignity. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into true stories that matter. Thank you for watching.